So you look for some things like that. Don't trust messages that say, "Dear valued customer," unless that happens to be your name. And then that would cause some problems. Don't trust messages requesting personal information or verification. You know, if they really are them, they already have that information. And you don't need to give it to them again. Be suspicious of messages which try to make you think you must respond right then. What I call the used car salesman technique. Have you ever felt like you've gone into a lot just looking and then you felt like you had to buy right then? Yeah, me too. Oh man. And then just make sure you hover over suspicious links, see where they really go. And if you want to know, then you log into the real site. You type it in yourself and find out. But those are some things you just got to be aware of. It turns out that, like I said, I've been the victim of identity theft a couple times. I want to show you an example here. What happened is, and this is amazing. It happened, or I figured this out. This happened on April 1st, April Fool's Day, 2005. And I got this email from Earthlink, and that was our service provider. And it's kind of small here, but it was from Earthlink, and it had a blocked sender list. And the blocked sender was service at PayPal. And the subject of the blocked email that I never saw was receipt for your eBay payment. And I didn't really think much of it. I thought it was maybe some promotional for eBay, or that Earthlink had blocked it because it was spam or something like that. However, a little while later, Kathy was doing some online banking, and she was reconciling things. And by the way, if she hadn't been doing that, which she does on a regular basis, it could have been days before we would have found out that there was a slight discrepancy in our account. The conversation went something like this. Dave, did you buy something from eBay recently for $1,987? No. Well, somebody did. What? And so from the notation on the transaction, we could see that money had been transferred to our PayPal account. You know, and PayPal's kind of that intermediate to go from your bank account or your credit card account to, a seller. So I went to our PayPal account, and I saw this slide. And here's our PayPal account, all activity. And it says April 1st, payment to Ramona Calquone. And it was completed in the amount of $1,987. And it was transferred from our bank account in that same amount. Wow, that was surprising. So after looking over this, it says details. So I clicked on details to see what I just bought. Go ahead, Brandon. And it says I bought a 1999 Klein Mantra Pro Carbon frame XTR large mountain bike. Yes. Okay. And so I needed a closer look. So I wanted to look at it. So I clicked on it. There's the bike that I apparently bought. But it turns out the buyer wasn't me. It was this guy. This username TUO2000. And so even though I paid for the bike, I wasn't going to be the one to get the bike. And so I clicked on this username, TUO2000. And this is what I found out about this guy. Well, first I wanted to know more about my bike. And it looks pretty nice, The original price for the bike was $4,500, so now I'm thinking I've got a pretty good deal going on. It's only $50. Well, and it turns out it was $1,500. So where's the other? It was $487 to ship to Russia. I didn't realize this until later. Okay. So I went back and I checked out this buyer, and notice he's got a -3 rating. And now he's not and this is on April 1st. Okay? So go ahead, Brandon, click the next one here. And so here's his feedback rating. No longer a registered user. He'd been a user for 4 days. That's it. And there's some people who didn't really care for this guy a little bit. Here's some comments. Fraud account. Do not do business with this person. Fraud. You didn't get anything, you piece of filth. Fraud account, use PayPal account. stole $270 from me. So now I'm worried. Okay, and so I got to wondering why I didn't hear from. Well, first of all, I started calling an email. I called and emailed PayPal and eBay, and even the eBay seller. And this is what I wrote to her. I'm writing to hopefully stop shipment of the Klein bike that was this number. The winner of that auction was this guy, but this person didn't pay for the bike. We did. I think somehow he stole or accessed our PayPal account. $1,987 has been withdrawn from our checking account. We didn't buy this bike. We live in Rifle, Colorado, not Russia. Please contact us. And I didn't use all caps, but I did put 3 exclamation points there. So then I was wondering, how in the world did I not see this transaction? Because, usually from eBay you get, hey, you're winning or getting close to winning, and yay, and stuff like that. And so this was interesting. On my Earthlink, there was 2 blocked emailers. One was from anything from PayPal, and the other was from this person who sold the bike. So somehow the guy who got into my account made sure they blocked everything from eBay and from the seller so that any kind of information getting from them to me would have been blocked. And so we just didn't know. It was amazing. I thought, wow, those Russians, they got it going on right here. Well, it turned out the end of the story was pretty good because, and it's interesting, some of those guys like eBay and Amazon who rely on online business, that's their whole source of income. And I talked to people and I said, now do I need to call the police or anything like that? What do I need to do next? And they said, Mr. Ziegler will take care of things. So I think there's some kind of, internet enforcement group out there that maybe some Russian guy named 2000 is now in a gulag somewhere in Siberia or something. I don't know what happened, but everything got better, and we didn't lose any money or anything like that. But if we hadn't been on the if Kathy hadn't have been on the ball, it could have been very different. But after this event and this whole idea of identity happened, and it happened not just to me, but to my whole family, actually. I began to think more deeply about who I really am and how permanent my definition of who I am really is. I thought about how transient our identities are in this society, how easy it is to take something away from who we think we are. And the more I thought about it, the less I liked it. Because even if I take all the security steps that I can, it's still very possible for someone to get a hold of my identity and use it for their purposes and manipulate it and change it or destroy it, destroy my reputation, depending on what their ultimate purpose is. Brandon, click the next click, would you? It really can be very fragile, depending on how I define my identity. Now, I don't have to tell you that left me feeling a little bit insecure in who I am. And that really doesn't have anything to do with the fact that I live in a pink house. I feel fairly confident in that. I've come to grips with that. But I also feel like I need to protect my identity. I need to have it anchored into something that's real. I don't want to get to a place in my life where I look back and I don't even know who I am or why I've been doing the things that I've been doing. And I feel like my life's been pointless. Actually, what I want to do is create a situation where my identity is permanent so that it can't be taken away. And I know who I am no matter what life may throw at me, no matter what the circumstances. And so I've got on your notes in there in a little box that sometimes protecting our identity is complicated, or it could be made simpler simply by how I define who I am. Now, there's lots of ways to define who you are. One way of defining who I am is to let others do it. Okay? Others may be the definers. Now, Brandon, just click the sound thing, and then we'll do another click, and hopefully see if any of you older people like myself recognize this song.
No one knows what it's like to be the bad man, to be the sad man.
All right, let's...
Behind blue eyes, no one knows what it's like to behave.
There we go. All right. Well, I had this debate when I was in high school about what this song really meant, you know. But to me, this song is about somebody who had all these looks. They were supposed to be this person, but somehow he'd been defined as, you know, this bad boy or whatever. And you know, so someone else had defined this person. And, you know, by the time the song's over, you see that they went ahead and just made that identity their own. They said, okay, if that's how you're going to do it, that's who I'll be. But sometimes other people will want to define us. The problem with this is that when others begin to define who I am, often I change my behavior to fit their idea of who I am, or I rebel because I don't like how they've defined me. And I end up getting labeled anyway as a rebel or a bad boy behind blue eyes. And maybe some of you here this morning know what I'm talking about. You've been labeled or defined by your family. You know, and it turns out, let's face it, you can't get away from that. Intentionally or not, we're defined by our family because of our family. Growing up, I was always Little Dave. I had a cousin who was older than me, and guess what? He was Big Dave. You know? So I was Little Dave, and now I'm like 4 inches taller than he is. I'm still Little Dave. I'm still Little Dave. You know, I don't know, have you ever come back to a situation you kind of feel like you've been put back into that same thing when you were a kid? Sometimes as a teacher I have to be careful not to judge kids because I've had their brother or sister already in class. You know, oh great, you're the little Johnson boy. Yeah, okay, great. So much for classroom discipline this year, huh? Right out the window. But even Jesus, wasn't he judged based on his family? Isn't this the carpenter's son? This is Jesus. We know him. Isn't this the carpenter's son? And you know, even his brothers, they didn't. We grew up with you. We know who you are. You know? And so sometimes we are defined because of our family. Sometimes we're defined by our friends. You know, and I put that in quotes. But the sad truth is sometimes our friends, they may not have our best interest at heart. Maybe they want us to validate who they are by manipulating us to be like them. Come on, just be part of our group, man. Come on. What are you, chicken? You know, and our friends help themselves feel better about themselves by either putting us down or having us come together alongside them and be part of their group. Now, interestingly enough, kind of subtly, I think we've also been defined by Charles Darwin over the course of many things. Brandon, go ahead and hit the next slide there. You know, if we really believe that we are not created by God with a purpose, then Darwinian evolution is what's left up for us. And Darwinism says that we are the results of undirected mechanistic processes that account for all the diverse and complex living organisms that exist. We're no different than any of them. It insists that there's no long-range plan, there's no purpose in the history of life. Things happen without intent, just randomly. Hit the next one there. Okay, and how does that happen? Well, the mechanism of Darwin, go ahead, is that all we're about is just mutation. Mutation in our genetic code coupled with natural selection and pressures due to the environment passed on to successive generations, and sometimes they're beneficial mutations. And those give organisms a preferential way to survive. And so those are the ones that do. It's the survival of the fittest kind of idea. And so really, what we are the result of isn't a loving God who cares about us, who's uniquely made us. We're just the cause of random chance. There's no purpose here. You know, and if you look at what Charles Darwin thought about this idea, this is what he said. A man who has no assured and ever-present belief in the existence of a personal God or of a future existence with retribution and reward can have for his rule of life, as far as I can see, only to follow those impulses and instincts which are the strongest or which seem to him the best ones. That's his whole goal. I just got to kind of go with the flow, and whatever I feel like at the time, the strongest impulse, that's going to define me and what I do. Think about that. Think about defining who you are on that. What's the end of that? What really can only be the end of that is hopelessness, purposelessness. And I think we see that a lot in today's society. People looking for hope and purpose, but aren't directing that search towards God or anything like that.